Welcome to the new video of Neurophilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin.
The invisible stagnation. Have you ever had the unsettling feeling that life simply isn't moving? That no matter how many days pass, you remain in the same emotional place, as if caught in a loop you can't fully understand or escape? It often begins quietly. A heaviness settles in. A sense of drifting replaces direction. And although you can't articulate exactly what is wrong, you feel something inside you collapsing, piece by piece. You try to change. You really do. Maybe you start a new habit, waking up earlier, journaling, exercising, praying, reading. Maybe you tell yourself today will be different, today you will finally push forward. You look for motivation, you watch videos, you read quotes, you talk to people hoping for clarity. For a moment, you feel a spark. A hint of movement. A promise. Then slowly, almost invisibly, everything slides back to the same point. The same stagnation. The same exhaustion. The same internal voice whispering the sentence you fear most. I am a failure. You may never say it out loud. You may keep it buried in silence. But if you have ever thought that, even for a second, then this chapter is written for you. Because what you feel is real. But it is not what you think it is. This pain, this stuckness, this sense of falling behind is not because life has decided to punish you or block you. It's not because you are lazy, weak, or destined to lose. In fact, the truth is far more complex, and far more hopeful. Decades ago, the psychiatrist Aaron Beck, the father of cognitive therapy, made a discovery that shook the foundations of psychology. He found that depression, hopelessness, and the identity of failure are not caused by bad events themselves. Two people can go through the same loss, the same rejection, the same disappointment, and one grows stronger while the other collapses. The difference lies not in the event, but in the interpretation. It's not the world that hurts you. It's the lens through which you see the world. Beck identified a silent mental mechanism he called the negative cognitive triad, a distorted way of thinking that convinces you of three things. You are inadequate. The world is unfair or hostile. The future is hopeless. And once this triad forms, it changes everything. Your brain begins to function like a radar for disaster. You start scanning for confirmation that you're not good enough, that things will fail, that people will reject you, that the worst possible interpretation must be the correct one. The mind becomes addicted to its own negative loops, not because you want it, but because the brain is trying to maintain consistency with your internal beliefs. And the worst part? It begins to ignore anything that contradicts the negativity. Compliments? Forgotten. Successes? Dismissed. Moments of joy? Explained away as temporary. It is like living inside a nightmare you unknowingly recreate every morning the moment you open your eyes. Think about it. You wake up in the same messy room, with the same distractions waiting for you. You scroll through the same toxic content, expose yourself to the same draining voices, repeat the same thoughts that have been suffocating you for years. Then you ask yourself, why hasn't my life changed? The answer is painful but necessary. You are unintentionally feeding the exact conditions that keep you stuck. Your external environment reflects your internal environment. Your habits reveal your mental programming. Your relationships mirror your emotional state. You think you are trapped because life has blocked your path. But in reality, you are unknowingly pressing the same buttons every day that keep the cage locked. This chapter is not a motivational speech meant to temporarily inspire you. It is a mirror, one you must look into without turning away. It is written for the person who is tired of watching life pass by while they stand still. For the person who is tired of feeling like a spectator in their own story. For the person who has suffered enough and wants to understand what is truly happening inside them. Here is the truth you must hear. You are not broken. You are conditioned. No one is born thinking they are a failure. No one enters the world believing they are helpless. These ideas are learned, built through repetition, shaped by pain, strengthened by silence. And because they were learned, they can be unlearned. It is possible to break the cycle. It is possible to rebuild the mind. It is possible to escape the cage, but only if you first understand how it was built. And that is the journey we begin now. The distorted lens of the mind. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a pair of glasses. Not something you put on, but something you've been wearing your entire life without ever noticing. This invisible lens sits between you and reality, shaping everything you see, feel, and believe. Now imagine that the lens is scratched, cracked, or stained. No matter how beautiful the world is outside, everything appears darker, harsher, and more threatening through that damage. This is what Aaron Beck discovered when he studied the inner world of people who feel constantly defeated. He found that it wasn't the world itself that was hostile, but the filter through which the world was interpreted. And he gave this filter a name that still defines cognitive psychology today. The negative cognitive triad. This triad is a silent mental script that shapes your perception in three powerful ways. 1. A negative view of yourself. 2. A negative view of the world. 3. A negative view of the future. Once these three beliefs become interconnected, they form a psychological prison so subtle that most people never realize they are inside it. But everything they see, think, and do is shaped by it. Let's break down how each part of this triad takes root. 1. The negative view of yourself. This part of the triad whispers the same message again and again. There is something wrong with you. You are not enough. You will always mess things up. What makes these thoughts so dangerous is that they sound like facts inside your mind. They feel reasonable. They feel justified. They may even feel like self-awareness. But in truth, they are built on distorted beliefs that you have accumulated over your life, beliefs formed from painful moments such as childhood criticism, social rejection, academic failures, or emotional neglect. Instead of seeing these moments as isolated events, your mind internalized them as identity. This is who I am. And once a belief becomes identity, your brain works overtime to protect it, even if that identity is harming you. 2. The negative view of the world. When you start believing you are inherently flawed, the world begins to look hostile. Suddenly everything feels like a competition you're destined to lose. Others get opportunities. Others have luck. Others have support. But not me. You begin to interpret neutral events as personal attacks. A stranger's silence becomes rejection. A minor setback becomes proof that life is unfair. A delay, a conflict, a mistake, everything becomes evidence that the world is against you. The world hasn't changed. Your lens has. And through that lens, life starts to seem like a battlefield where you are always outnumbered. 3. The negative view of the future. Once you believe you are flawed and the world is hostile, the future becomes a place of inevitable disappointment. You start expecting failure before it even happens. Why try? It will just go wrong anyway. Nothing ever works out. This is the most paralyzing part of the triad. Because hope is the fuel of action, and when hope dies, action dies with it. You stop taking risks. You avoid opportunities. You sabotage yourself because the outcome, in your mind, is already written. This is where stagnation becomes a lifestyle. The automatic nature of the triad. Here's the most unsettling part. These thoughts do not arise slowly or consciously. They appear automatically, in fractions of a second, woven into the background of your awareness. So seamlessly, in fact, that you don't realize you're thinking them. You don't question them. You just accept them. And by accepting them, you allow them to shape your worldview. The cognitive distortion loop. When the triad takes hold, your brain develops what Beck called cognitive distortions, mental filters that bend reality to match your fears. These distortions make you notice only negative outcomes. Remember only failures. Dismiss successes as luck. Assume worst-case scenarios. Judge yourself harshly. Interpret others negatively. You may experience 10 good moments in a day, but your mind will cling to the one negative one. Someone compliments you, but your mind fixates on the criticism that followed. Even a small win is overshadowed by the thought, it won't last. This creates a looping system in your mind, a psychological algorithm, that continually reinforces the triad. You think you are reacting to reality. But you're actually reacting to your interpretation of reality. And that interpretation has been programmed by past pain. The trap behind the triad. This distortion doesn't stay inside your head. It affects how you act, how you speak, who you trust, what you pursue, and even what you tolerate. In other words, the triad shapes your entire life. Understanding it is the first step in breaking it. But to truly escape, you must see how these beliefs influence your behaviors, often without your awareness. And that is the next chapter. How the mind builds its own trap. Now that you understand the power of the negative cognitive triad, we need to go deeper, because the triad doesn't simply influence your thoughts. It infiltrates your behavior, your habits, your choices, and eventually the entire structure of your life. What starts as a subtle mental distortion slowly becomes a self-reinforcing system, a psychological trap that seems invisible until you finally recognize its patterns. This trap is built through something Aaron Beck identified as depressive confirmation bias, and once this mechanism activates, it begins to shape your world in ways you do not consciously choose. The brain as a hunter for failure. When you internalize the belief, nothing works out for me, your brain doesn't simply accept the thought, it begins to search for proof. Your mind becomes a surveillance system. A hunter. Constantly scanning your environment for signs of disaster, rejection, or failure. You make a mistake, see? I told you. Someone ignores your message, they don't care. A plan goes wrong, of course. It always happens. This is not a rational process. It is emotional programming. The brain highlights anything that confirms your negative identity and filters out anything that challenges it. A success? That was just luck. A compliment? They're being polite. A positive moment? It won't last. In this state, even neutral events become threats. A delayed reply, a social silence, a small misunderstanding, everything becomes evidence that reinforces your belief in failure. The self-fulfilling prophecy. But the tragedy doesn't stop at perception. Your thoughts reshape your behavior, and your behavior reshapes your results. When you believe you will fail, you hesitate. You try less. You avoid risks. You procrastinate. You prepare for disappointment. You withhold effort. And when the outcome finally collapses, as any undernourished effort eventually will, you say, "I knew it. I really am a failure." But the truth is harsh. You entered the attempt already defeated. The depressive bias turns your predictions into reality. The belief becomes the behavior, and the behavior becomes the proof. The habits of stagnation. Over time, this mental pattern seeps into the most mundane parts of daily life. You begin to unconsciously build habits that maintain the same emotional climate. You wake up and your room looks exactly as it did yesterday: unmade bed, scattered clothes, a desk piled with things you don't want to deal with yet. This physical chaos sends a silent message into your mind. Nothing will change. You spend your day around the same people who complain about their lives, who reinforce negativity, who normalize mediocrity. And through constant exposure, their worldview becomes your worldview. You consume the same content: endless scrolling, comparison, distractions, noise, feeding your mind with the exact ingredients that drain your focus and heighten your self-doubt. Not because you want stagnation, but because your internal system expects stagnation. Your outer world becomes a reflection of your inner world. And your inner world becomes a reflection of your outer world. The cycle tightens. The mind loves coherence, even when it hurts you. Here is a truth that most people never realize. The human mind prefers consistency over happiness. If your thoughts, behaviors, and environment are aligned with the identity of failure, the mind will resist any positive change, not because change is bad, but because it breaks the pattern it has become familiar with. You try to think positively. Your mind rejects it. You're lying to yourself. You try to create a new habit. Your brain pulls you back. You won't keep it up. You try to picture a better future. Your brain floods you with doubt. It won't happen. This resistance isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of conditioning. The triad has been running the show for so long that the mind defends it as if it were truth. Why you remain stuck even when you try to change? People often blame themselves for not changing, but the real reason is simpler and far more painful. You are trying to change your life while keeping every piece of the environment that reinforces the old identity. You try to change your thoughts, but your room still reflects chaos. You try to improve your habits, but your routines remain the same. You try to push forward, but you surround yourself with voices that keep you down. You try to find clarity, but your digital world is full of noise. Everything around you, and within you, continues to feed the system you are trying to escape. The truth you must accept. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not destined to fail. You are living inside a mental and environmental loop that has been silently shaping your life. To break it, you must dismantle not only the thoughts, but also the behaviors and the world you have built around them. The environment that keeps you stuck. Up to this point, we've exposed how your thoughts shape your perception and how your perception shapes your behavior. But there is a third piece of the puzzle, one just as powerful, and often more dangerous because it operates outside your mind yet affects it constantly. Your environment. Most people believe their environment is just a backdrop, something neutral, a house, a room, a routine, a social circle. But your environment is not neutral at all. Every detail around you is quietly training your brain, reinforcing your identity, and shaping your emotional state. Without realizing it, you are surrounded by signals that keep you tied to the very life you want to escape. And the harsh truth is this: it is you who keeps tolerating those signals. The external world mirrors the internal state. Aaron Beck emphasized that negative thoughts do not exist in isolation. They create behaviors. And behaviors, repeated consistently, shape environments. Your mind creates your actions. Your actions create your surroundings. And your surroundings reflect those same thoughts back at you. This is how a mental cycle becomes a physical one. Let's start with the simplest example, the room you wake up in. When you open your eyes in the morning and the first thing you see is a messy, chaotic environment, clothes thrown around, an unmade bed, neglected objects piling up, your brain registers the scene before you're fully awake. That physical chaos sends a psychological message. Life is out of control. Nothing changes. This is who you are. It becomes the first emotional cue of the day, an unconscious reminder of stagnation before you even leave your bed. And because you see it every day, you begin to normalize it. The chaos becomes familiar. Familiar becomes comfortable. Comfortable becomes identity. Your social surroundings matter more than you think. Now consider the people you allow into your life. How many of them truly inspire growth? How many challenge you? How many encourage a better version of yourself? Or, and this is where most people get trapped, how many spend their days complaining, repeating the same stories of defeat, reinforcing the belief that life is unfair, that change is impossible, that mediocrity is normal? If you surround yourself with people who live in negativity, you will begin to absorb their narratives. Humans are social creatures, we reflect what we're exposed to. If negativity becomes the dominant language around you, your mind adopts that language too. And suddenly, the world feels heavier, not because it is, but because your circle weighs you down. The digital environment is even more dangerous. Your physical environment and your social circle shape you. But your digital environment can be even more destructive, because it feeds your brain non-stop. Every post, every comment, every video you scroll through is a message your mind absorbs. And without intention, you end up consuming content that triggers comparison, insecurity, distraction, hopelessness, emotional numbness. You open your phone and fall into a world engineered to drain your focus and amplify your fears. Hours pass. Your self-esteem drops. Your energy collapses. And when you finally look up, you wonder why you feel worse. It's not you. It's what you're feeding your mind. The ecosystem of failure. When you combine these three environments, physical, social, digital, you get what I call an ecosystem of failure. A room that reflects defeat. A routine that reinforces stagnation. People who anchor you to your past. Content that triggers insecurity and comparison. You are not stuck because you chose failure. You are stuck because you live inside a system built to keep you there. And as long as this system remains intact, any attempt at change will be sabotaged. You might try to think differently, but your environment echoes your old identity. You might try to build new habits, but your surroundings pull you back. You might try to move forward, but the voices around you drown your progress. This is why so many people feel trapped despite their efforts. They're trying to change their mind while living in the same world that created their mindset. The mind seeks coherence, even with pain. Your mind wants your thoughts, behaviors, and environment to match. It craves coherence. If your environment reflects the identity of a failure, your mind will fight anything that challenges that identity, even if that challenge is positive, healthy, or necessary for growth. This is why motivation fades. Why habits collapse. Why change feels impossible. Not because you're weak, but because you're trying to change yourself without changing the world around you. The first step to breaking the system. If you want transformation, you must be willing to break the environment that maintains the old you. Clean ruthlessly. Cut draining people. Change your digital diet. Disrupt your routine. Redesign the spaces you live in. Changing your environment doesn't fix everything, but it removes the anchors that keep dragging you back. And once the anchors are gone, the mind becomes free to rebuild. The triple intervention, rebuilding your life from the inside out. You now understand the architecture of the mental trap. The distorted thoughts. The sabotaging behaviors. The environment that reinforces them both. The question is no longer why you feel stuck. You already know the answer. The real question is, how do you break the cycle? Aaron Beck discovered that real, lasting transformation requires one thing, a method he called the triple intervention. It is not soft, not gradual, and not comfortable. It is a direct attack on the three pillars that keep you stuck. Thoughts. Behaviors. Environment. Trying to change only one of these is like trying to stop a fire by pouring water on just one corner of the flames. The rest will keep burning. If you want your life to transform, you must intervene at all three levels simultaneously. Let's break this down with brutal clarity. 1. Reprogramming the mind, the thought intervention. Your mind is full of automatic thoughts, little whispers that arise in fractions of a second. You won't succeed. No one cares. There's no point. These thoughts are not the problem. Believing them is. The first step of intervention is to disrupt these thoughts with cognitive identification. Take a notebook, not your mind, not your memory, but paper, and write down the negative thoughts that appear when you're sad, anxious, or discouraged. Then ask, is this a fact or an interpretation? What evidence supports this? What evidence contradicts it? Would I say this to someone I care about? By questioning your thoughts, you remove their authority. The 5 Whys, cognitive surgery. Choose one painful belief and ask yourself, why, 5 times. Example. Nothing works out for me. Why? Because I always fail. Why? Because I'm not good enough. Why? Because people reject me. Why? Because I feel inferior. Why? Because since childhood I thought I had no value. Now you're not dealing with a random thought, you're dealing with the emotional core that sustains it. When exposed to light, that core begins to lose its power. The Cognitive Distortions Journal. Each day, write down your automatic negative thoughts and classify them. Catastrophizing. Generalizing. Mind reading. Negative labeling. Black and white thinking. This teaches your brain to recognize the trap before you fall into it. Over time, your mind stops treating these thoughts as truth and starts treating them as hypotheses, something Beck always emphasized. This is the first intervention. Now comes the second. 2. Taking action without motivation, the behavior intervention. People wait to feel motivated. But motivation is unreliable. It comes after action, not before. If you wait to feel ready, you will wait forever. The behavior intervention demands that you act even when you feel nothing. The 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, you do it immediately. Get out of bed. Take a shower. Drink water. Wash a dish. Respond to one message. Fold one piece of clothing. It seems trivial, but it's a psychological breakthrough. Movement itself generates energy. Reconditioning your habits. Every destructive habit must be replaced with a constructive one. If scrolling is the problem, block the app after 10 minutes. If comparison is the problem, write down 3 personal wins each day. If avoidance is the problem, commit to 10-minute bursts of action. You don't need to change your whole life. You just need to interrupt the old loop. Small actions create new emotional pathways. This is the second intervention. Now the third, and without this one, the other 2 collapse. 3. Reshaping the world around you, the environmental intervention. Your environment is either a cage or a catalyst. The environmental intervention is about detoxing failure. The physical reset. Grab a trash bag. Yes, seriously. Remove anything tied to stagnation. Broken objects. Old papers. Clothes that no longer serve you. Items from a life you want to leave behind. Clean your desk. Make your room breathable. Create order where your mind has grown used to disorder. The digital reset. Unfollow accounts that trigger comparison, negativity, or hopelessness. Mute voices that drain you. Block content that feeds your insecurities. Not from hate, from self-preservation. The social reset. Not everyone deserves access to you. If someone consistently drains your energy, limit your exposure. If someone destroys your confidence, create distance. You own no one access to your mental health. Energy is more valuable than time, and toxic people are black holes. The daily reconstruction ritual. Every day, complete these 3 steps. Mental. Replace one destructive thought with a balanced one. Physical. Do one concrete action that moves you forward. Environmental. Change one small thing in your space. One thought. One action. One improvement. Every day. Consistency beats intensity. The turning point. After 30 days, your mind will begin to react differently, not because the universe helped you, but because you stopped sabotaging yourself. You're not powerless. You're reprogrammable. Now you may be wondering, how do I stay strong when my old patterns return? What do I do when the chaos tries to take over again?